So today's reading from the Baron de Montesquieu. The Baron de Montesquieu. In every government there are three sorts of power: the legislative, the executive in respect to things dependent on the law of nations, and the executive in regard to matters that depend on the civil law. By virtue of the first, the prince or magistrate enacts temporary or perpetual laws and amends or abrogates those that have already been enacted. By the second, he makes peace or war, sends or receives embassies, establishes the public security, and provides against invasions. By the third, he punishes criminals or determines the disputes that arise between individuals. The latter we shall call the judiciary power, and the other simply the executive power of the state. The political liberty of the subject is a tranquility of mind arising from the opinion each person has of his safety. In order to have this liberty, it is requisite the government be so constituted as one man need not be afraid of another. When the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person or in the same body of magistrates, there can be no liberty, because apprehensions may arise lest the same monarch or senate should enact tyrannical laws to execute them in a tyrannical manner. Again, there is no liberty if the judiciary be not separated from the legislative and executive. Were it joined with the legislative, the life and liberty of the subject would be exposed to arbitrary control. For the judge would be then the legislator. Were it joined to the executive power, the judge might behave with violence and oppression. There would be an end of everything, were the same man or the same body, whether of the nobles or of the people, to exercise those three powers, that of enacting laws, that of executing the public resolutions, and trying the causes of individuals. So my God, if you didn't hear all that, that was amazing. That was incredible. You should write all those words down, study them, concentrate on them. So America, you have three branches of government. You have the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Now, we know them as three different branches because they've been the three branches forever. And they were embedded in the U.S. Constitution because of this man named Montesquieu. And the three branches of government has been recopied all over the world. All over the world, every constitution, like in every democracy, they all got three branches of government. And so what is three branches of government? The point is to prevent tyranny, to prevent one person, being a dictator, to prevent totalitarian dictatorship. Now, there's a lot to this, okay? In the very beginning, he says that there's three branches to government, but he doesn't say judicial. He says you got the legislative, and then you have the executive, and then you have the executive. Well, what the fuck is he talking about? We got two executives in the legislative branch. Both the executive branches are the ones that execute the laws. The legislators only write the laws, either write new laws, right? What did it say? It said the prince or magistrate enacts temporary or perpetual laws. So they write brand new laws. Some of them are short term, some of them are long term. So write new laws, amend or abrogate the old laws. So write new laws, either short term or long term, and rewrite, get rid of the old laws. That's all the legislator can do. Now the executive is the one that executes those laws and so there's two kinds of executives. There's the executive for the nation, the executive for, say, Colorado, so that's Jared Polis, right? So the executive for the nation in Colorado would be Jared Polis, but the executive in regards to matters that depend on the civil law. Well, civil law, a lot of times people say, well, that's a civil issue. Because the difference between, civil and criminal. Criminal means the cops will do shit. Civil means You got to get a lawyer and sue the bastard yourself. That's that's a dispute between two private individuals. But if you go in there and steal, a 50-cent piece of gum from a corporation, well, shit, that right there might be the worst goddamn crime you could have ever committed in your life. You will get arrested. You will go to jail. The rocket docket slaughterhouse will fuck you up. But if one person pistol whips the shit out of another person and the cops don't give a shit, oh, that's just a civil matter. That's a dispute between two private individuals. Anyway, so the executive. You got two executives in respect to things dependent on the laws of the nation, and the executive in regard to matters that depend on the civil law. So you have two different executives. You got the judiciary that executes the laws. That's the law of the land. The cops go out there, they nab them, the judiciary slabs them, right? So the police are on the front lines. They're the government's agents, and in some respects, they almost seem like they're a branch unto themselves. But this is about the Constitution of England. What Montesquieu is sitting there trying to say, that there's three branches of government, and he's talking about the judiciary, but by saying that it's an executive, it'll make you think of the judiciary in a different... In fact, it's almost like the judiciary is the only goddamn part of American government that works. The fucking, the governor and the legislators and the whoever, the magistrates, if the cops don't do a goddamn thing, well, none of those motherfuckers even matter. The DA, the judges, all the cops didn't do shit. Well, fuck. And you're too poor to afford a lawyer? Well, I guess we're just going to let injustice and crimes carry on. Without the presence of justice, you got nothing. Without the presence of justice, there is no peace, there is no society, there is no civilization. You got nothing. So justice isn't the absence of conflict. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. It's Martin Luther King. So I thought that was fascinating, right? I'm sure you all did too. By the second, he makes peace or war. So they're trying to say that by writing these laws, you actually have a lot of power. And you can do a lot of power. The national government, they take the budget. So somehow, because they write the laws, they were able to write a law that says they get to control the budget. And says they get to make peace or war. So they get to send us off to die in, Botswana, or sends or receives embassies. So sends out, this is the person that, ambassadors, whatever, establishes the public security. Now that's an interesting one. Establishes the public security. What if you're living in an area where the criminals just run hog wild? Just hog wild and free. What do you do when the criminal motherfuckers the government officials are too afraid to do anything to the criminals? So the prince or the magistrate, the executive, in regards to matters, not the civil law, not the executive, not the judicial executive, but the executive executive. If you're part of the executive and you're not, establishing the public security, well, goddamn, you're just basically failing all over, because it's like write a couple laws here and there and provides against invasions. And then by the third, he punishes criminals, or determines the disputes that arise between individuals. So that's what the point of the judiciary is, according to Montesquieu, the founder of the three branches. He says that the point of the judiciary is that the judge and the criminal justice system and the cops are there to punish criminals or to determine the dispute that arise between individuals. So there you go. That's what people talk. That's what civil is now. But the judiciary does both of those, right? Is that a dispute between individuals, or is that a fucking criminal? I don't know. I mean, if you piss or whip the shit out of somebody, I guess you'd want to know what precipitated beforehand. Did the person have a good reason, or is this just a violent, psychotic piece of shit that just likes to pistol whip women? Just pistol whip the shit out of a woman That's a dispute between individuals. That's what that woman has to go sue. She got to go to the, and then police officers have a lot of discretion. They could actually pursue a criminal charge if the person's not there, if they're gone, if they filed the charges, left, if they were dead and gone, whatever. Whatever the cause, whatever the case may be. So if a piece of shit criminal just started pistols, whipping the shit out of your wife, the whole point for the judicial branch is to prosecute those criminals. And if you don't think pistol whipping the shit out of somebody's wife isn't a fucking crime, well, Jesus Christ, what are y'all doing with your judicial branch? America! This is for America, just in general, especially the non-voters. You're not even voting. You're not doing anything for the republic or the democracy or the community. You're not doing anything for anybody else but your own fucking selfish ass piece of shit self. And then the last 2 points, he talks about the legislative and the executive powers are united in the same person or in the same body of magistrates. There could be no liberty. Because, and it makes sense, so if you're the person who writes the laws, you could change the old laws, you could write the brand new laws. If you separate those two people, so you got one person writing laws, and you got the other person enforcing the laws. So the ones that are writing the laws, their only purpose is to write them fairly, to write them better, to write them to make this, a better society, to write a brand new law, to change old laws. But if you put the executive and the legislative together, which is actually what the counties of Colorado do, so this is, Alamosa, Conejos, Castilla County, there's 3 county commissioners, and the 3 county commissioners both serve as the legislative body and the executive body, which means that they're the ones that write the laws, either short-term or long-term laws, and they're the ones that change the old laws. And since that's the legislative part, they're also the executive part. So the executive, they write, well, they say that they make peace or war, sends and receives embassies, establishes the public security, and provides against invasions. So that's what the executive is supposed to do. But in Colorado, you got 3 county commissioners that are together. They're both the executive and the legislature. So here is Montesquieu telling Colorado counties that you're going to have tyranny. You're going to have tyranny. When the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person or in the same body of magistrates, there can be no liberty because apprehensions may arise lest the same monarch or senate should enact tyrannical laws to execute them in a tyrannical manner. So the county commissioners of all the counties of Colorado can write a law saying, you better get your dogs a rabies shot or else we're going to punish you. We're going to write you a ticket, take your dog away. We're going to do something. So they write the law, they're going to do the rabies shot, and then they can execute it right away. They can write the law, and then they can execute it. And they say, well, you got to watch out because that could be tyrannical. And they're absolutely, Montesquieu is absolutely right about that. I think what protects Colorado counties from totalitarian dictatorship is that you got 3 county commissioners. You have 3 kings. You have a triumvirate of kings, and they all have the exact same power and the exact same weight. Any one of them, all they got to do is just get one or the other one to be an ally. But if you have a strong leader, all they got to do is just get one under their wing, and then they could just run roughshod over everybody. So it's up to the third person to tell everybody what's, the rest of the county what's going on. He's not giving you no power, but you got the power to speak the fuck up and say this is bullshit. And then maybe, they won't get reelected. So you got 3 kings. And so what saves us from tyranny from the 3 kings is that they'll check each other. You hope. But like I said, if one king gets the other king to be, his little goon, his little stooge, So, you don't want to combine legislative and executive powers. You also don't want to combine the judiciary power, which is the power to try cases between individuals and to punish criminals. So the judiciary, you need a judiciary, because fuck the criminals. I mean, if you have criminals, it's not good for society, civilization. It's not good for business. It's not good for families. It's not good for anybody. The fuck is a criminal good for? You used to say, I mean, if you had a party, you wouldn't want an asshole, but, you know, a worse person would be a criminal. You wouldn't, yeah, hey, criminals and assholes, just, you're not welcome to this party. You're not welcome to this party. So it's saying, okay, again, if there is no liberty if the judiciary power be not separated from the legislative and executive, were joined with the legislative, the life and liberty of the subject would be exposed to arbitrary control. For the judge would then be the legislator, were joined with the executive power, the judge might behave with violence and oppression. And so there's another reason why you're not going to have totalitarian dictatorship, because you got the judge. Was it Michael Gallegos? No, that's a commissioner. Who the hell is the judge? Kimberly Brown? It doesn't matter. The cops won't do shit, so the entire establishment, the entire government establishment here doesn't. It's null and void. If the cops come up and they say, nah, that's not a crime scene. Nah, that's not a victim. That's not a crime. Nah, that's not a dead. Nah, this ain't a crime scene. Then the entire system is shut down. And Colorado Constitution actually guarantees the right for an individual citizen to have access to the courts. We have a right to to have access to the courts, but we have no access to, at least in Castilla County, whatever the judicial district is here. So yeah, there's no liberty if the judiciary power was, but that's, so let's bring it back to Montesquieu. If you have a judicial power and you have legislative and executive, they're separated, you won't have to, so therefore the 3 county commissioners, they have to check, they'll check each other, and then you'll also have the judge and the judicial branch. So the 3 county commissioners, they can't go around committing crimes either. And if there's a dispute between them as individuals, between other individuals, then the judiciary will step in. Or can step in. And so if you don't separate these branches into 3 different, there's going to be an end of everything. We're the same man or the same body, whether the nobles or the people, to exercise those 3 powers, that of enacting laws, that of executing the public resolutions, end up trying the causes of individuals. It'll be the end of everything. If you don't have 3 branches of government, and this is just democracy 101. Most households are dictatorships. Do you separate your household into 3 branches? Nope. One of us writes the laws, the other one leads the family, and then the other one is the judge of the family. And we have elections every 3 days. Anyways, so there you go, America. Executive, legislative, judicial. You keep them separated to prevent tyranny and fascism. Because a fascist, because fuck a fucking goddamn fucking tyrannical fascist totalitarian piece of shit. That's why we killed all them Nazis in World War II. Americans are the good guys. Americans are the good people in World War II. We stopped those Nazi totalitarian lowlife fascist bullying sons of bitches. Who would look at that shit and say, admire, wow, look at the way they bully the poor and innocent and helpless, the way and the disabled. My God, the Nazis were the worst with the disabled. So you admired Nazis terrorizing disabled people? You're fucking sick. You're sick. America, learn your 3 branches of government, because you live in a democracy, and frankly, if you don't know the 3 branches, I mean, if you're not voting and you don't know the three branches, you're not really an American. You are not an American. You don't believe in democracy. You're not a part of this civic republic. I don't know what the hell you're doing. What the fuck are you doing? Just some questions I'd like to know, America. Anyways, peace.